I wanted to talk about some emotions I've been feeling this week, specifically rage and anger. Now, it's interesting because I feel like a lot of the world is angry and for good reason. There's a lot going on that we can say is just or unjust. The events of the last weeks with the storming of the Capitol here in the US, things that are going on around in the world that, we can't even begin to fathom. There's so much happening everywhere. And yet, these aren't the things that have sparked the anger in me. Of course, they affect me. Of course, I'm paying attention. Of course, I do not condone acts of violence, nor do I condone the behavior that has been put forth. However, I have been choosing to respond to it by looking at the anger within myself. And I guess I didn't expect myself to feel it, for small external triggers to really tickle those parts of me and leave me questioning what I am doing and how far I've come. I grew up with so much anger and violence in my early childhood. I've been purging memories of small and big instances, like wanting to go to a Morrissey concert and, through a lie of omission, which is on my part, I didn't tell my parents that my best friend was not going, who was a girl. And although my parents didn't like her, she was a girl, because that really is all that mattered to my parents. Well, not all. There's lots of factors they had and criteria they had that was necessary in order for somebody to be a friend of mine. But she was a girl and that's what mattered. But it was her brother who was going and her brother's friend, both friends of mine too. It wasn't a big deal, it wasn't an issue. But I wanted to go to this Morrissey concert. I really wanted to see Morrissey live. And so, in this lie of omission, I didn't tell them that my friend was going as well. And when they found out that my friend wasn't going, the response was what was typical in my household, which was pure rage and violence. And I think I lived in a situation of damned if you do, damned if you don't. So it didn't really matter whether I told the truth or I lied or whatever happened. I was always going to be punished in some way. And in this case, just this little lie of omission, which was a big deal to my parents, and for their own reasons they can say why that was a big deal to them, but it resulted in my dad taking my shoe off my foot and beating me with it. Now the shoe had a heel on it, and he beat my face with it, and I lost my hearing for a week. And my mother, while she did her best to protect me, she didn't really, and it was something that she really regretted. She'd been beaten, by him many times. And she's seen this before, but there was, that sense in her where she just kind of let it happen and tried to justify his actions, and I spent a lot of time in my life trying to reconcile all these things. Now, anybody who knows me knows the amount of shadow work that I've done to really come to terms with my upbringing and my parents and those things that have happened. And again, this is just one instance out of hundreds of thousands. And I grew up with so much anger and violence, and this is what I had to reckon within myself, that I had to purge a lot of this anger and violence in me, the anger and violence that I perpetrated against others for probably what were small things. And a lot of my rage would come out in ways that shocked me, and I'm sure shocked others, because it was just not normal. I remember when I was young, my parents, because they were building and amassing wealth for themselves, living the American dream. And they would take us on vacations that would not be, vacations that everybody could go on because they were pricey, things like skiing and whatnot. And I remember they would let me invite a friend to come with me. And every single time on those trips, I mean, it was a normal trip for us. There would be lots of crying, lots of, sadness, lots of just chaos. And each and every time my friend would call, it would be a different friend because nobody would want to do a repeat trip. And they would call their parents to pick them up early. And it was hard for me because in my mind, my friend was kind of like my buffer zone, my, thinking that I would be safe because my friend was there. And honestly, probably the anger and the violence was a lot less because my friend was around, because my parents were really good about not showing this side externally. But it was too much for other people and they would leave. And so this is the kind of anger that I had unresolved in my heart for so long. And, children are little computers, supercomputers, programmable computers, and they repeat your behavior. And while they may know better and know it's not the right thing to do, they can pick up on those behaviors. I'm observing these things with my daughter. And, we work together in changing patterning in each other, and it's a wonderful kind of experience if you allow yourself to be led by the wisdom of your child. But I was, told how to be, who to be, what to do, how to act, and I had a lot of rage and anger in me. So over these past several years, I have been breaking that mold, that armor that I've had around me for so long. I used to think that even though I was angry, that I was strong. I was strong because I had endured and survived that and so much more. I mean, there was just so much in my early childhood. And the fact that I was still standing, that I had managed to get a PhD and managed to do an MBA and managed to be married more than once, and all these things, I was still standing and I wasn't some lost soul. I mean, I was a lost soul, but I wasn't on the street addicted to drugs because that's really would have been the easy escape for me, that I thought I was strong because of it. And I carried the strength with me in so many aspects of my life. I carried this idea of strength, and I just kept thinking, like, because I've been resilient through all of this, that I was a strong person. But and I even carried this on. Like, I then went on to do CrossFit, and like, here, look, I mean, can you see my shirt? Female, the iron symbol for the chemical symbol, the elemental symbol for iron, Fe in front of male, the original Iron Man. Like, being female, you had to learn how to be strong in multiple ways. And I did CrossFit because it would make me physically strong. And it also made me even more emotionally and mentally strong as well. And I thought strength was the answer. I just had to be strong. And I never really thought about how that strength was making my anger stronger in some ways, because I was thinking that I didn't have to face my anger, that I just had to be steadfast and hold on to it and just be like this pillar that, just didn't feel but allowed myself to withstand whatever was thrown at me, whether it was abuse in my early childhood or heavy weight or whatever. I could take anything, I could do it all. But what I never realized is until very recently is that the strength comes from the vulnerability. It's not about being strong and being able to take on anything, to experience 2020 and be a bright, shining light. That's not strength. That is just a matter of hiding, your emotions behind your strength. The strength comes through feeling and expressing those emotions. I really started to purge the ways in which I was holding on to anger within myself, the ways that I had hurt people through my anger and was not willing to see it. I had to feel what it was like to be in their shoes and to experience my anger, because to be on the receiving end of that is not fun. I was on the receiving end of a type of anger, and it was not fun. I have been really looking at the ways I have been feeling triggered this week. External things that are so small. My husband behaving in a certain way, my daughter behaving in a certain way. And maybe they aren't justifiable ways of acting, but that's who they are. And that's what's happening for them in their reality in this moment of now. And the only thing that I can control is myself. And so I started to feel this anger rise in me. And I wanted to blame. I wanted to blame them. I wanted to blame my circumstance. I wanted to blame my childhood. I wanted to be a victim. But it was the hard work to have to go inside of myself and ask myself, what in me is not yet healed? Where am I still hurting that I have this anger in me? So I allowed myself to feel the anger, because if I just am going to push it away and ask these questions without feeling it, then the anger still resides in me. So I had to feel it. I had to allow it to come out in my own way, in a way that would not be hurtful and harmful for them. And that took some control. And I have to say, for some time there, I was yelling at them. And then I caught myself and I stopped myself and I said, I'm sorry, I am blaming you for something that is inside of me. I need to remove myself from this situation. And I removed myself and I allowed myself to feel that anger. I allowed myself to cry. I allowed myself to go deep inside myself. And what came out was, an anger that I don't allow myself to experience that often. Sometimes I'm angry at life. I'm angry at the spirit, at great spirit, at God, at the universal life force, whatever you want to call it. Whatever that energy source is for you, however you define it. I was angry. I was angry at it. I was angry at it for all the pain I've had to experience in my life. I was angry for the pain that the world goes through. I'm angry that we have to go through these levels of density to release and understand and know that we are creators. I'm angry that this is the experience that we have to have. I'm angry that they that whatever this force is, gave me a brother and sister that it took away from me. I'm angry for the fact that I had to feel physical, mental, emotional, spiritual pain in my life for so long at such an age that I was so vulnerable and unable to make those kind of decisions for myself. I was angry. I was angry at not knowing why I'm here and what I'm doing. I just had so much anger in me. And as I let it go, as I felt that anger and I allowed myself to feel it, oh, the release. The release. Oh boy. I felt like I had shed a skin. I had shed an energetic density. It's okay to be angry. It's okay to be angry at the world. It's okay to be angry at God. It's okay to be angry. And what I realized is that anger at God was an anger at myself. Because I do believe that I chose this life. I have soul contracts in place. I have agreements with myself, lessons to learn. I chose to be in this density. I chose to have certain life experiences. I chose the traumas and the so-called tragedies of my life. They were catalysts for me to understand that I can transmute anything, that I can take that hate and that anger and that pain and transmute it into love. But I had to acknowledge that that anger at God was an anger at myself for choosing this experience for myself, for choosing this life where at 44, I'm wondering what my purpose is. And I've realized my purpose is to be in every moment of now. That my purpose here on earth is not what I do. It's not what I say. It's not all these things. It's how I feel in every moment of now. And if I don't feel my anger, then I can't feel that love. Whew. It's all love. And as I look at that anger towards myself and I explore that anger within my heart towards myself, and as I continually feel into it so that I can transmute this density into love, this is where the work and the magic happens. This is how I change my external reality. Because if I can fully and wholly love myself, I can wholly and fully love the world. It is the self that is the answer. And as long as I am running away from myself and running away from my emotions and running away from my experiences, running away from my feelings, then I am running away from myself. And if I'm running away from myself, then I'm not seeing what's right in front of me. The answers are inside. They've always been inside. I invite you to look at your feelings. But I invite you first to allow yourself to feel those feelings. Don't push that anger away. Don't push that sadness away. Don't push that hate away. Allow yourself to feel it and understand it. Allow yourself to experience it and rage at it. And then go inside and ask, where does it come from? What is being triggered? What part of you has to be healed? And ask for help. Ask for help. Ask for help of those around you. Ask for help of Great Spirit, of God, of this life force energy. Ask help from your spirit guides and angel guides that are watching over you. Ask yourself for help and guidance, and let your intuition guide you. We're not alone. We're not alone when we do this work. Allow yourself to feel. Allow yourself to be. Be the human being that you are. Because when you do, we are going to make great shifts in this world. We're no longer looking at the external and asking why. Why me? Why this world? Why this hate? And instead we're saying, oh, this within me is being transformed. This within me is reflected outside of me. How can I change that? I asked my husband and daughter for help, and they in turn asked me for help. And now we're working together. This is how you change the world. Resolve that conflict within yourself, and you can resolve the conflict outside of you too. Thanks for listening to me.